You are listening to another episode of Devil Tongue and Phantom Other. Please follow us on Facebook, Twitter at Devil Tongue, Snapchat, YouTube. We have a SoundCloud, Skype. Call us. Leave your opinions. Area code 347-903-8452. Or you can email devil.tongue@gmail.com. And once again, you're listening to Devil Tongue and Phantom Other on Spreaker.com. And the question I want to ask today is, freedom of speech, are you sure? You know, one thing about my position as a internet journalist, podcast journalist, is that I try to present facts. You know, it's usually news that I have received from the internet itself, not necessarily the wires, but when it comes to you speaking your mind, the question is, do you really have that First Amendment right to do so? Or is it going to be a problem because of the fact that you're expressing yourself? I mean, facts are facts, opinions are opinions. But what bothers me is when you're, let's just say, expressing your First Amendment right of free speech, and yet you get shut down for it. What's your take on that, Phantom?
Well, to me, I think it's just, what I was going to say is freedom of speech to some and not to all. Meaning, some of us have the right to say whatever we want to, and then we don't get a batted eye. And then there are times we say something that it's not even vicious, but it's the truth. And we get shut down. We get blacklisted. So there's it's funny how it works in certain people's favors and it doesn't work in others. It's funny you have the white supremacist groups, they spew it all the time. But when you have others, meaning the black and the brown people, the Latinos and everybody else, you want to shut us down. So it's funny how you want to work it in certain favors of speech, the freedom of speech, how you want to work it in certain people's favors. But then it's funny how it doesn't work all the time. You have the right to talk about, we being, the justice is unfair to us and everything. And you have the right to yell and screaming in the streets and everything like that. But it's funny how when it comes to, black folks and you see that on film, we're getting the dogs and the hoses and everything like that. And I'm talking about civil rights. I'm not talking about right now. But I'm talking about when you look at the KKK and you see them rallying, you don't see them coming out hard. They got the same freedom of speech we do. But then you notice the difference, how they be taken care of in the street and how we get taken care in the street.
Here's the problem in general. When comedians, whether they have a one-man show or whatever. Matter of fact, let me take a sidebar to that. Seth MacFarlane, Family Guy, Cleveland show. Seth MacFarlane is definitely very edgy in terms of the material that he puts on the show. And, it's been accused of everything from being racist to being misogynistic to being sexist. But it's comedy. Now, hold your thought. Now, I ask you, in terms of freedom of speech, is Seth MacFarlane good? Or do you have a problem because he's saying things that aren't cool with you?
Now, I'm going to tell you that whole thing with Seth MacFarlane. Okay? Seth MacFarlane, I don't know if everybody knew that the Family Guy was canceled. Okay? Not recently. It was canceled. Do you know how the Family Guy came back?
No.
People wrote and complained and got the Family Guy back on. So sometimes, you talk about, what's his name? Seth MacFarlane like a dog. But guess what? He has such a fan base that their words are so powerful that they brought back Family Guy.
It's comedy.
But that's not the point. The point is that it's still words in a sentence. Regardless. Freedom of speech is your words being spoken. Either serious, either jokingly, either satire, either dramatic. Regardless, it's words.
let's talk about the recent controversy with To Kill a Mockingbird.
I didn't hear about that.
Well, I forget exactly where, but basically they're taking the book out of circulation. I do believe this is a school. And To Kill a Mockingbird has been around since, what, the 60s?
50s, I think.
The 50s. You have Huckleberry Finn.
They try to get rid of that too as well.
Next, and I don't care if you get mad at me for saying this or not. What's next on the list? Heather Has Two Mommies. Why?
No.
Because
No. Mm-mm.
Okay,
I was gonna say Things Fall Apart, but then I don't know if people are gonna understand that either.
Well, if they read the book, then maybe they would.
Right, because I had to read that book in high school. It was Things Fall Apart.
But are we talking strictly content? Or are we talking strictly, wording?
I don't think it's. See, I don't know what's the reason behind to get rid of A Kill a Mockingbird. I don't get it. Yes, it is. I don't remember it being that much of a racial overtone in the book. I don't remember. I mean, I think there were black people in the book, but I just don't remember the racial undertone of it. It's not as bad as Tom Sawyer, or what's the other one? And Huckleberry Finn, which, yes, they were entertaining books, but yeah, there was a lot of racism going on in those books because of the time.
That was a reflection of the time.
Right. But you have to understand, too, is that when To Kill a Mockingbird came in, that's when the civil rights movement was going, it was like in full force. So things were changing. I don't know how fast they were changing because I wasn't there, but it was in a progression of things of changing and things to come. But I don't understand. I mean, cut you off, but I don't understand the whole thing of To Kill a Mockingbird. I don't even understand why do you try to get rid of certain books. I don't understand it. Other than, like the Babysitter Club and all the garbage books, but those are classics. Those are books that are written of the time, of the moment, that gives you the feel of what the writer of that time who was popular was thinking about at that moment. You know what's funny? I don't see nobody taking, a Stephen King book out of the library or taking them off shelves. And Stephen King's been around for years.
Of course. But that's because it's not controversial in the sense of, I guess, race or race relations.
True. But you know what? He writes about horror. He writes about horrible things that happen to people. And it is sadistic and sadist and everything like that. I don't see nobody up there rushing and complaining about, Stephen King. Even though he seems, because I never met him, seems to be a very nice man. But I'm just saying, it's funny how you look at certain authors and certain things that they write. And some of it is so graphic and so horrible and so inhumane. But then you will go back 500 years to pick up on books that, hey, really, come on now.
Well, let's look at music real quick. You have Luke Skywalker, shout out to Uncle Luke. You have NWA. And then you have bitches with problems, hoes with attitude, and the list goes on and on and on. You want to talk about censorship? Let's face it. They tried to shut these rap groups down. Now, rock and roll being what it is, I mean, I didn't grow up in the era of Jerry Lee Lewis, and allegedly Elvis got, caught hell for gyrating. But in terms of music and lyrics, here we go again with my free speech, my First Amendment right. You don't like what I'm saying, okay, let's pick on NWA. With the whole, first of all, the name of the group, period, was controversial.
Right.
And when they made Fuck the Police, that prompted the FBI to send them a letter.
Right, but I'm not saying what they did was right, and I'm not saying what they did was wrong. What I'm saying is that that's why you have, it's just the FYI right now, is that that's why you have on music right now when it says illicit lyrics or whatever, because of that.
Parental advisory explicit lyrics,
right,
but see, that should be on every album regardless of genre. I mean, okay, I'm going to pick on Sade, because I love Sade.
Right.
If she says one curse word, just one, does she get a parental advisory explicit lyrics sticker on her album?
But guess what? It has to be with certain curse words. Because remember, like in television, it was like you could say certain, like remember back in the day, I remember it was Dynasty. And I know I'm showing my age, but I remember it was Dynasty. I think it was Dynasty. And they had to broadcast before the show an advisory. Before, I forgot what her name is, she's still around, for her to say the word bitch on television.
Well, you're talking about Joan Collins.
No, it wasn't Joan Collins. Oh yeah, maybe it was Joan Collins. Right, you're right. Cause I remember her face. I remember her. Yes, because she had a sister named Jackie Collins. So yes. So then they had to have the advisory, but for the word bitch. Now, in film, they do the same thing with rating. You can say shit how many times, bitch, asshole, whatever. But if you say the word fuck, you go into a different rating.
Okay, let's look at Quentin Tarantino. When Reservoir Dogs, which actually I love Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, Django.
Mm-hmm.
Quentin Tarantino, artistically, take note, I did say artistically, loves to throw the N-word around. But, do we get offended?
Not
No,
really,
because
no.
that's part of his free speech.
Right, true. And every time you hear the word nigga come out somebody's mouth, it's always Samuel L. Jackson. So I guess that's the other thing too, because I don't hear John Travolta calling that. I didn't hear it not one time in Pulp Fiction. It was Samuel L. Jackson. Since it was coming out of his mouth, it was all co-signed.
Well, yeah, but the thing is, you gotta look at the script. I mean, we can't really.
No, I understand that, but guess what?
If nuance is the right word, we can't really get into that because it's all about how the script read anyway.
Right, but guess what? He wrote it like that, but then he didn't have a white person say it like that. See, the thing
Double
about
standard.
It's not double standard. Quentin Tarantino knows better. Okay?
Double standard.
No, it's not double standard.
All right,
it means you know better. That means that if you're going into the hood, all right, and if you don't got a ghetto pass and your ass is white, that means you don't go into the hood.
Let me ask you a question.
Go ahead.
Eminem can say wigger.
Okay,
wigger, mm-hmm. All right, and you already know the interpretation of that,
right?
I've never personally heard him say nigger,
right?
Never personally,
right?
Whether he said it around his true black friends, his close black friends, I don't know. Will he ever say it? I don't know. But if you want to say that artistically speaking is fine, but then it's not fine, for anything else. I guess I have to honestly say I do have a problem with it across the board. Why? Let's look at all the derogatory words, all the racial epithets. You got nigger, you got kike, you got spick, you got wop, you got guinea. Okay, I can keep going, but you all get the idea and understand where I'm coming from. Why is it alright for us to be belittled? Okay, because I'm black and Native American, straight up. Shout out to the Cherokee Nation. But anything else, you're anti-Semitic. Oh, you're homophobic. Oh. Really?
Because what happened is that, and this is just my opinion of it, and this is for me just looking at stuff, we've always been the lowest form. Always. Okay? Always. And what makes it really bad is we never try to do any better. You know what's funny? We tried to do better, and thank you to Martin Luther King, Medgar Evers, and all of them. They made it to a point. Hell, even Public Enemy made it to a point. You know what I'm saying? But then somehow we just dipped, and we just fell all the way down. And none of us even take a chance to even better ourselves. Because I sit here and I say to myself, you know what? When I look back, I'm like, dang. Even with rap music, I'm like, dang, there's nothing positive. There's no fun songs. Hell, there's even no dance songs. Everything is all about your money, your bitches, your boys. You out to get something. You already got it. You're getting it, got it, left it, whatever. You don't sing about issues. You're not educating nobody. And I'm not saying, like you said, freedom of speech. You can do whatever the heck you want. But guess what? You were just bringing up the point of black people, and I bring up the point of black people. Think about it. When we were listening to music, there was always a message. What message is there out there now?
Well,
there's more sex out there now than ever.
Well, society at large has changed. We are a capitalist society. I don't care what anybody says.
No, I don't think we're
it's
capitalist
all
society.
about money.
No. You're right. You're right from that stand, you're right. But we've become so technology dependent, so codependent on electronics and computers, we don't even connect with one another anymore. We will rob each other for our phones, even though it might not even be an iPhone, just to have a phone.
Well, exception of bills. When's the last time you actually wrote a letter? And think about bills. You don't even write. You write the amount on the check, right?
It's not even that. And some people don't even write out checks. How do they pay their bills? Online.
We got away from that.
Electronics.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, 15 minutes of our fame. We got to go. But thank you for tuning in. Please keep listening to us. And we will keep broadcasting to you.
All right. You take care out there.
All right. And remember, freedom of speech. But seriously, watch what you say. All right. Later.